Okay. So thanks everyone for joining the call. So what we are going to do today, I am going to provide some overview about the training, Oracle Integration Cloud and Fusion Technical. So you will get an understanding about the background about these technologies. What is the what is the need for learning these technologies and how that is relevant in the today's market. How that is relevant specifically in the space of fusion applications and people coming from Oracle applications background, either technical consultants or techno-functional consultants. We are trying to move towards fusion technical or fusion techno-functional. So how this is going to help, you'll get some idea about that one. In case if you are working in any other technologies like Oracle SOA or Java technologies, also how this is going to be relevant, you'll also get some idea about that one. I will also show a couple of integrations, if I can just at least run the existing integrations and see how it helps in the integrations. That also I will try to show if the environment, everything is okay. And at the end, we will actually create one Hello World integration as well today. Okay, so that's the plan. I'll be giving time for the questions usually after talking about a specific topic. In between, if you want me to stop, you can stop and ask the questions. Otherwise, you can also note down the questions, and whenever I'm giving time, asking time for the questions, you can also ask. Before starting, anybody has any quick questions, or you want to yeah, I can take quick questions and then I can start if you have anything. Otherwise, you can wait until I explain everything and you can ask me questions. Okay, I'll also talk about this specific training, the schedule, etc. I think I already, if you have seen the message, and that will be already there, but I'll talk about that as well. And what resource we are going to get, how we are going to practice, all that we are going to discuss today. It is going to be, I think, 1 to 1.5 hour session. Okay, today. That's the plan. So we are here for Oracle Integration Cloud. That is a training along with Fusion Technical. Even though those two are not directly interlinked, but we are learning together because most of you guys are coming from Oracle applications background and you would like to know something about Oracle Fusion. And you also want to understand how you can leverage the features of Oracle Integration Cloud in the space of Fusion Technical. That's the reason we are doing these two things together. So even if you're not working in the Fusion Technical, if you're just trying to learn Oracle Integration Cloud, still this is going to be a very good use case to see how this technology can be applied in reality. Okay, it's one of the good examples how we are utilizing the Oracle Integration Cloud. Okay, so sorry. So let us quickly talk about what was there in Oracle apps technically, right? So in Oracle applications, the technically most of the times it was available as a database technology, and most of the work what we do in Oracle applications and EBS, it's a database oriented technology. So you will be working with database, SQL, PLSQL, all that stuff. Even if you are working with any integrations in the Oracle applications, when I say integrations, you're having a third-party application and you would like to push and pull the data from your Oracle apps, EBS and Oracle applications to the other applications, you are still doing that with the help of PLSQL in the earlier cases. So what is changing when you are coming to Fusion applications? So there is a lot of change. There's a lot of change in terms of technology, what we use in the Fusion applications. So whereas the Oracle apps and EBS is completely database-oriented technologies, most of the business logic will be part of the PLSQL there. But when it comes to Fusion applications, that may not be true. You will be still having the database here. You will be still having the SQL and PLSQL, all that. But there are a lot of business logic which is actually running in the middleware. That is nothing but it could be part of ADF or Java, etc. So there is a lot of change. How that is going to impact integrations, we'll come to know in some time. The Fusion applications is not just the database. You have the database also, but it's basically, it's a web technology. It's based on web technology. And we also say Oracle Fusion Middleware is the technology what is used to develop the Fusion applications. That doesn't mean as a technical consultant in Fusion, we need to be aware of the complete Oracle Fusion middleware. Not really. Even these applications are developed using this technology stack, but we will see what is required to work in the Fusion applications technical side. So the technical difference between Oracle applications and these Fusion applications, this is a completely web technology oriented. It is using all the industry standards, and then it's available only on the cloud now. So it is available as a software as a service. So that is also adding more complexity when it comes to integrations. Right. Now let's spend 5 minutes just to understand what is this web technology, or what kind of architecture we generally follow when you're developing an application from the using web technologies. See, the training here, we have to just what we have to understand that if you're working as a EBS Oracle Apps technical consultant, usually you may not be developing the applications from scratch, right? You are developing the PLSQL, you're customizing PLSQL like that. But when you are doing the training here, you think like you are a developer who is developing some application from scratch. When I say applications, it could be the backend applications, just integrations. It could be sometimes UI applications. When you come to VBCS, etc., you're developing the UI. So in order to understand the end-to-end of any application, if you take any enterprise application like Fusion, for example, if you look in the Fusion applications, what all involved to develop the Fusion applications? I'm just giving to, I'm going to give a little bit idea about that. And then with that knowledge, it will be easy to understand, easy to work in the technical side. So that's the idea here. So coming to web technology, you are always, the web technology involves 3 different layers. One we call browser. There is the UI, right? That's where you just open the browser and type one URL, that's all. Then you are having the database here. That is the back end of your application. That is not going anywhere. The database is most critical part of your application still. All your database schema is lying on the database. You may be writing lots of business logic still in PLSQL. That is still there in the database, RDBMS. So here you're dealing with SQL, RDBMS, and PLSQL. Right. Now, take any example. When I go to any website, for example, Amazon.com or Flipkart or any, for that matter, any online business application, or I open my intranet, like some HRMS application, etc. When you're typing something, you're creating some new employee, or you're creating an order, or you're searching for some products. So you're typing something on the browser, and then you're getting some data. In case of search, you're typing like, so Lenovo, something like no, and then you're getting the data from the, and you're displaying in the page. When you're creating something, you're entering all the data. For example, you're creating the employee, you enter all the data for employee record, then submit. That is going to create a new record in the database. So what happens in case of web technology or the web application, when you're communicating between browser and to the server, ultimately the data has to come and it has to go to database. There is no doubt about that. Sometimes it may be having some other services also, but most of the times the data is coming and going to database. What happens in case of web application, it is not directly going here. There is one more layer called middleware. It's also called web server. It's also called application server. All these are, the middleware itself is not just web server. What I mean to say is it's basically a middleware, which is also we call sometimes application server, and the building block of application server is again the web server. So the request goes to your server. Which server? The web server or the application server. And this web server understands what is the request coming from the client. What is the request coming from the client? and it also has the knowledge or enough intelligence to process that request. Now that depends what kind of request you are getting, whether enough information is available in this server itself, because this is not in the database. So I'm just requesting for a simple HTML page from here. If I'm going to company site, I'm requesting contacts.html. In that case, the HTML page may be available on the server directly on the web server. Then what it will do, it will read the content of the HTML and just send that whole content as a response back to the browser. Then browser has the knowledge, or it has the capability of rendering the contents of any HTML page. That is the static application case. But if I'm searching for a product and it has to give me all the list of products matching that keyword, in that case, you will not be having all the information here. You won't be having that HTML page built in advance. In that case, what happens? There will be something here, something called server-side component. Okay, the server-side component will come into picture, which is actually a program like a Java program, PHP, or some program which is running here. And that program understands how to communicate with the database, okay, and also form an SQL statement on the fly based on the what request I'm getting. And that SQL statement will be executed on the database server, get the data. And once I get the data again, this program will convert the data into HTML, and that HTML content will go back to the browser as a response. So in this case, the data is getting and built, the HTML content is built on the fly dynamically. So this is all dynamic web applications. Usually we don't specifically say dynamic web applications, but that's what happens dynamically here, right? So here, this is the most critical part. The web server, we are not building as a developer. The web server will be already running. I mean, somebody created the web server based on some specifications. You just install like a database server. But the developers will be developing the server-side components. So they have to understand like servers, JSP, or some ADF framework, or VBCS, like this is the latest one, something like that, right? You are going to learn some technology and using our .NET for that matter, if it's Microsoft technologies, PHP it could be. So anything which is having some programming capability. So those are nothing but server-side components. We also sometimes treat them business components. Okay, so the business components, etc., are like your Java components or .NET components or PHP. Those are the components we're talking about. So what happened when request comes? The web server will be having the already configuration. The development team would have done that configuration. Whenever I'm getting the request for this kind of URLs, this is the Java component is responsible. So that the request will be forwarded to that Java component or the server-side component, and that will take care of communicating with the backend server, getting the data, or communicate the backend server and inserting the data, updating the data will be taken care by this middleware, the server-side components. Okay. Don't think too much about this one. Am I going to do this one? Am I going to develop this in integrations? May not be. But this, everybody should be having a clarity about this architecture before you go and work with anything in the Fusion applications technically, or for that matter, in today's world, anywhere you go, whatever you are doing with the web application or the web technology world or the Java world, you will be directly or indirectly involving this architecture. And this architecture is also called model view controller architecture. Okay, just to get an idea, we are learning this one. Even though you may not be developing directly, you may be developing also. If you're using ADF, you are indirectly working this architecture. If you're using VBCS, you are learning, you are directly, indirectly doing this one. You are working with the REST APIs, you are indirectly doing with this one. Okay, so this should be pretty clear about that. Any quick questions on this one before I move on? This is just again, when it comes to browser side, what you do, you develop these things using your HTML. I'm talking the very fundamental technologies. So HTML, JavaScript, CSS. These are the things what you use in the server, in the client side, and in the server side you may be using Java, .NET, PHP, and any other frameworks like your ADF, etc.
So, Bhaskar, this is Sampath.
Yes.
So, do we need to learn Java also here? Because just we are the base of a PL SQL
Not
technology.
really. I mean, see, if you want to really work, if you want to develop the applications using Java technology, you need to know Java. But you are not going to do really that one. What you are going to do, you are learning, for example, VBCS. VBCS is going to work everything on the REST APIs. Okay, in that case, you are not taking care of how the REST API is developed. The REST API may be developed using Java, somebody else developed, or you may be developing the REST API using Integration Cloud. So like that. So what is happening in the latest trend? The new frameworks are trying to remove the dependency on the low level programming like Java. Even in the ADF case, it may be Java framework, but how much Java development you do, it's very less. You do without, I mean, drag and drop and you develop the ADF applications like that. Okay. But our primary focus will be again not really application development, even though I'm talking about this one. Our primary focus will be on the integration side. In the integration side, you are doing you don't need any Java knowledge, because what we are doing is an integration platform. It is having different artifacts and different components to develop the integrations.
So, basically, third party application just we are integrating to the right. Okay. So, is there any a good scope in this place of jobs?
Yeah, we can talk about that little later maybe.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, at the end we'll discuss about that. What is the market, etc. You will get a little more idea about integrations, etc. Now, right? So this is just very fun, like basic fundamentals of web technology. Now, how much, as I said, like whether you learn this and all, I'm not really telling that. Okay. Now, moving on, how this is related to us. So let us see now what we are learning is. Let's talk about integrations, because that is what our training about. I mean, I can talk about many things about Fusion Minilevel and all that stuff, but I don't want to overload. We can talk that in the trainings in the going like the future sessions. Let's talk about integrations now, and why it is complex in the Fusion applications, or why we need to learn integration cloud. Okay. So, and I'll also come back and connect this one at some point, right? Now the integrations, you're having multiple applications in your enterprise, correct? Why there are different applications? You can't stop. It's an IT enterprise. We are having an IT department. And in order to run your business, you will be needing lots of software applications, business applications. Some applications are completely like database-oriented applications, like Oracle application, I mean the EBS, etc. A lot of business logic in the database side. You may be having some applications which are completely the new set of technologies used, like a new set of applications like Fusion applications or Salesforce, or you may be using SAP, you may be using some custom applications developed using some technology. So you don't have any control on what kind of applications or what kind of technologies will be used within your enterprise, right? So then what happens at the end of the day, all these applications should communicate among them. They should be able to exchange the messages among those applications, so that the business can get all the information from all the different sources and they can take the right decisions. Right? You cannot have an independent application running like in your enterprise. Usually, every application will be directly or indirectly connected to some other application at some level, right? So that's where you need to know how I can exchange the messages, or how I can integrate among different applications. This was not a big deal when you are only working with the database technologies. So what happens in the application one, you are having its own database. Application two having its own database, right? Or schema at least. So this is having its own database. Now, if the application one would like to, or application two would like to use something from application one, what you would do in case of database world, if everything is Oracle database, I can simply create a DB link between this database and this database, right? I can get database link and I can access whatever I want. That's all. That is an integration indirectly. Or, I mean, once I have the DB link, what I can do, I can execute any PLSQL API also. If there's a PLSQL API from database one, that's nothing but from application one. From the application two, I can run that PLSQL with the help of DB link. So DB link is actually helping to just communicate between two different applications there, because everything is database. Now, we also had, for example, if the application 2 is using Java, if the Java application would like to communicate with the database, what I can do, still your database can provide one DB user, like with the connection string, and the application 2, which is actually Java application, can communicate with this database also with the help of something called JDBC communication. That's what happens here also. On the server, when there's a Java component running here, in order to, one second please. So here, if the Java has to communicate with the database, what do we use? We are going to use the JDBC here also. The same concept can be used between these applications as well. Application 2 is Java component, can connect to the database 1 using JDBC also. Okay, that's also fine. The problem arises when there are multiple applications used in this architecture, and they may be running different databases, like one is MySQL, one is database, I mean the Oracle database, one is like SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server, right? It may be having different database servers, and there's a lot of business logic implemented in the middleware, like we're having some Java components in the application 1, we're having many Java components in the application 2. Now, in that scenario, if the application 2 has to directly get some functionality which is running the application 1's middleware, not on the PLSQL, there is business logic here. Let's say get customer details. The get customer details is a functionality here, or process order. The process order is not directly available here. I need to call some Java functionality for that one. Now application 2 would like to call something which is running on the middleware of application 1. How will you call that one? I cannot simply call it. Okay, because there is no direct communication between application 2 middleware and application 1 middleware. If the application 2 wants to communicate with the database here, maybe it's fine, you can use JDBC communication. The same thing can do application 1 also can take something from database here. But if these two have to communicate, there is no direct connection. So what do you think? How can we connect? There are two different applications which are like Java application 1, Java application 2, or this is a .NET application, this is Java application. It could be .NET also, or this could be PHP and this could be Java. So we're having multiple applications which are using heterogeneous technologies. Now you would like to exchange the data. Any idea what do we do if you want to? Can somebody try to answer? If you want to exchange the data between among the applications like this, what is the solution?
XML integration.
Okay, XML integration, right. Now XML integration is basically, but how do we exchange that XML? Like how do I connect from application 2 to application 1? XML maybe is a representation of the data. That's good, because you have now what you are doing, at least one level of problem is solved here. You're trying to represent the data in the neutral format, not in the database or in the Java. I'm saying everything will be XML so that you can easily understand. Any technology can understand that. That's a good solution. But how do they connect between these two?
Through the web services, Bhaskar.
There is a web service. Okay. Very good. So web service is a solution. Now let's understand what is web service. What is a web service means? Who has to provide web service and who has to call the web service? Now let's say application 2 would like to access something from application 1. Who is going to provide the web service? So application 2 has to access a functionality that is running on application 1. Now, which application has to provide web service? Application 1 or application 2? You can talk. I'm sorry. You can unmute and talk. For example, DB2 would like to call some API from DB1. Who has to provide API? DB1 has to provide API. It's obvious. Same thing here also. If applications 2 has to access something from application 1, the application 1 becomes your server. Or you can also say it's a web service provider. Application 1 is acting as a server. Now application 2 is going to act as a client, or it is a web service client. Okay. That's what it is going to, we are going to do it. Now, what is a web service means? How is it, what magic is happening when you say web service? How can two applications communicate as a web service? What does it mean? Anybody has idea? If you work in web service, of course you will know.
So basically the web service is nothing but the middleware which they are providing and integrating between the one application to the other application.
Okay.
So basically middleware will call the maybe the source application will send the data to middleware, or middleware can pull the data from source application and they will send the as part of XML the data, tax data, and there they will enqueue and dequeue the data, and then they will pull the data to they will insert the data into the target table. So that's how that integration will work.
Right. So basically the web service will be available, which is running on the middleware of your source application. We can say that. So the application 1 is having some middleware. Okay. The application 1 is having some middleware. That's where the web service is available from, so that the application 2 will be able to call that web service. Okay. So go a little more depth there. When you say middleware here, what's happening basically? The application 1 is actually writing some functionality somewhere here, and that will be exposed as a URL. The moment it becomes URL, it becomes independent of the technology. So what we are doing is, in the web service also leveraging the concept of web technology. In the web technology, how the browser and the server are able to communicate? They're able to communicate because the server is somewhere else, right? When I'm calling Flipkart.com, that Flipkart server is running on some, I don't know where it is actually, Amazon, I don't know where it is. But the browser application and that Amazon server or Flipkart server, they are able to communicate. There are also like two different applications only, right? One application is browser and one application is running some on the server. These two are able to communicate with the help of HTTP protocol. There is this application protocol. So using that protocol, this client and server are able to communicate. How? This will be possible only if this server is exposing your functionality as a URL. When you go to browser, what else you are doing? Everything is a URL, right? When I'm clicking on something on the browser, I click on something like this. It is a different URL. I click on something like this. This is a different URL. Basically, whenever I'm doing any action on the in the browser, you are calling a different URL, and that URL is available on this server, or this server is exposing functionality using that URL. Now the web service also a URL. You can think that way. In very like basic terms, the web service also another URL. So functionality what you are developing here will be exposed as a URL, and that URL now somebody can access that. Who somebody? Either browser. In which case browser will be accessing. If that URL is providing some HTML content which can be rendered on the browser, then your client is the browser. If that URL is providing some other content, let's say I'm getting some customer details, which is not HTTP content, I would like to use that as a XML in my application too. In that case, you are not calling from the browser probably. You're developing some web service client. How do you develop the web service client? You can develop the web service client using any technology. I can use Java. I can use .NET, I mean the C# or whatever. C#, I can use PHP. I can use PLSQL. Using any of these technologies for that matter, which has support for invoking the URLs. There will be some APIs. Using those APIs, you can make a call to the URL, and that URL you are going to also give some parameters or some input, and that request will go to the middleware of your application 1, execute that, get the data, convert that into XML, and send that to your client. That's how the web service actually working. Web service is not really a new technology. The web service is it's leveraging the concept of web technology. It's trying to make everything URL. That's what happened in the REST case also. In the REST APIs, when you're talking the REST services, they're the latest web services. Everything is URL. You don't worry about it's using Java or .NET or PHP or database. You don't worry. You are just calling that as a URL. URL, the moment it becomes URL, it becomes independent of technology. That is the beauty of that. Independent of technologies or platform or language, whatever you call it. Not only that one, also the location, because these two can be running on different servers and different locations, as long as you are both the hosts, the host one, which is deploying application one, host two, if they both are reachable, they'll be able to communicate, and they can communicate with the help of URL. There's nothing but web service. Very, very layman terms I'm explaining, okay? Don't think like, don't think, oh, URL, but what is that URL and all, how they develop and all, that's a different thing. We'll do that when you are learning the actual course. When you are going and learning integration cloud, you're developing different services, how you're developing, how that is becoming web service, and all, you will see that. Okay, but in a very layman terms, if you want to understand, the web service is nothing but the application is exposing the functionality as a URL, which makes the independent of technology, platform, and language. What do you mean independent of technology? The application one may be running in some X technology. The application two will be able to call that functionality using Y technology. That is what I mean say independent of technology. They need not be in the same technology. Earlier, what was the why we were able to communicate in the world, in the previous days? Because both are running in the Oracle database. Then I can easily communicate. I don't need any other medium for communication. Database link is sufficient. But now we don't know. The application one, application two may be using different technologies. If you want to communicate, then you need to have some medium. That medium is nothing but web service. The web service is nothing but it is actually a URL which is exposed by your server, and the client will be able to communicate to that, access that functionality using URL. So that is what happens behind the scene when you are talking about the web services. Okay. Again, all these are like fundamentals to understand. How much you go and develop at what level, we will see. It all depends on what framework or what technology you are going to use. If I'm using Oracle Sova, how I develop web services. If I'm using simple Java, how I develop web services. If I'm using Oracle Integration Cloud, how I develop web service. All this will be different. Okay. So you will see that, based on what you are learning. Okay. Any questions on this? Now I will. What we did, we connected web service. See, if we see, the integrations are based on the building blocks for integrations is web service, right? This is the building block for any integrations, web service. Now, what is the building block for web service? Web technology. We are trying to connect all these things. And this web technology may be using again backend the database. So database is not going anywhere. The web technology is still there. And then you are having the web service and you are able to communicate among different applications. That's how all the solutions behind the scene, they work. Okay, any questions on this? All right. Then there are some terms. I don't know if I explained today. I maybe explain the next session. Infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. There are different ways of subscribing. These are the cloud solutions. We'll talk about in the next session. But I want to show something today. Let's go and see some integration stuff now. So when you're learning integration in cloud, how we are going to learn? First of all, let's see that. I log into the integration here. This is my integration cloud. I logged in on Oracle Integration Cloud Platform. So here you are going to learn with different components, different concepts, integrations, connections, lookups, packages, and all that stuff. Let me also open one more thing. One second, I'll quickly open that page. I don't have a direct link here. If you already know, that's fine. But I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of the scope of the training or this course. This course is actually designed after a lot of experience and a lot of thought, thinking went into this. Over a period of time, it is getting evolved, what we are learning in this training. So here, the first part, what we are going to learn is understanding about these fundamentals, like XML, XSD, JSON, SOAP web service, REST web service, all that you're going to understand. The terminologies like what is IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, Fusion Middleware, like that. These are basics. Once you understand this one, you'll be developing some web services with the help of the components available in the integration cloud. These are not specific to integration cloud. These are the basics you have to understand. Now, what we do in the integration cloud? In the integration cloud, we are going to develop the integrations with the help of different components. So there you are going to learn different adapters are there. There's something called REST, SOAP, database, file, Oracle ERP, how you communicate using different, these applications or these technologies with the help of different adapters. So you're going to learn, you're not going to learn adapters separately. You're going to learn these adapters as part of creating the integrations. So whenever we are learning anything, we're going to learn end to end. We will not go and learn what is SOAP adapter, not like that. We're going to try to create an integration where you need to invoke an existing web service, SOAP web service. In that scenario, we'll go and create one SOAP connection. Okay, so you're going to understand how you can use a SOAP adapter in the integration cloud. The same thing with FTP, for example. We're not going to talk about what is FTP adapter, how it, no, not that. You're having an integration. In the integration, as part of my business logic, I would like to read the data from FTP, or I would like to write the data into FTP, or I would like to download some zip file. I would like to create a zip file and write to that one. So like that, you're having different scenarios we'll take, and then you're going to develop the end-to-end integrations. Then you will understand how these adapters and connections will be used in developing the integrations. On the same lines, you are going to have different integration patterns. You can create integrations called basic routing, app-driven orchestration, scheduled orchestration, publish, subscribe, file transfer. So file transfer actually is a duplicate of FTP and stage file, etc. But we're going to put a lot of focus around these two. This is becoming deprecated already from Oracle Cloud. So these two are the very primary and critical patterns. So we are going to spend a lot of time. It's not like spending. In fact, there is no other option. When you are going to create the integrations, you are going to create either this or this usually. Okay. So you will be doing maybe 40 to 50 integrations as part of this training. Then this is a designer overview, means you will be able to go and see how to create and that UI interface. And once you run the integrations, how you monitor. There is something called tracking fields, all that data mapping. So we are going to, some concepts are there. We are going to learn that one. Then integration mechanisms here. These are very important mechanisms. How you are exposing integration as a SOAP, how you are exposing integration as a REST, how to invoke REST services, how to invoke SOAP web services, how to read the data from FTP or file system, which is available in different representations like CSV or JSON, or vice versa. You're getting a CSV file, you want to use that in your business logic, and at the end you want to generate a JSON file on the FTP, for example. How you do that? Why you are doing this one? Because tomorrow when you are actually doing the live integration of the Fusion applications, how you are going to convert the data from CSV to JSON or CSV to XML. So you're basically building that knowledge here. The part one is completely independent of Fusion applications. When you're learning the integration cloud, you're learning the technology here. Like you go and learn the concepts and different components and interface, how you design all that stuff, and try to simulate different scenarios so that you are getting a end-to-end of this technology. That is the idea of the part one, right? And that's on those lines you will also learn. In fact, if you see the orchestrations, you will learn all these different activities. What is switch activity? What is for loop? What is logger, notification, fault management? Again, the fault management, what is throw, rethrow, creating schedules. There are different things in the orchestrations. Then the local file FTP server. Then we're also designing one project work. The project work, why we need project work is, you develop something, then you connect to that one. You again develop something, connect to that one. So you're slowly, you are starting with small thing, and then you're making that as a big integration. So that's how we are going to design. And in that project, indirectly you are learning different concepts of communicating different applications and different technologies with the help of different adapters. And you're also writing logic with the help of these activities, like if activity, for loop, while loop, switch, scope, or whatever, right? So all those things will be your learning. Once you learn this one, I mean, maintenance is there again, how to monitor and all. The second part is what you are going to focus on, the technical. This is again independent of the part one. Part one and part two can be learned independently. There can be some people only learning Fusion Technical and they are not worried about integrations. For example, you are not from technical background. If you don't understand about the logical, what are the integrations, all that. Let's say a functional expert. The functional expert can still learn this part, but they cannot learn really this part unless they are really having some kind of technical background. So here, why you are learning this one? We are learning because you are going to work in the Fusion applications, some technical or techno-functional. You also need to learn how to work with the reports in Fusion, like OTBI, BIP reports. So we are trying to get some foundation for that with the help of this OTBI learning, OTBI and BIP learning here. And then there is something called data loading concepts, and the tools are available, that is file-based data import. You'll also learn that one. So when you are implementing the Fusion applications for any client, as part of the migrating the data from your existing old applications to Fusion applications, you may have to load the data, right? How do you load the data? There are some tools available from the Fusion applications, that is FBDI. So we're also learning those concepts here. We'll be doing some examples with that. You will load the data into Fusion applications and see how it is reflecting in the Fusion UI. You will go to Fusion UI and check that, right? Then you will also learn about what is content server, file export imports. There is something called UCM on Fusion. So this is central content server. Whenever you need any files which will be required for your Fusion applications, which will be actually used by your backend, your jobs, etc. You need to first upload your files to UCM. So that interface you are going to learn. Then there is scheduling the process, like your concurrent programs. So you're getting all these like functional, all these areas in the Fusion. These are like technical, but not too much technical, because it doesn't involve any programming or writing coding. Nothing is required here. But it is also treated as a technical because it's not completely functional also. So these two are independent. Now, why we are learning in this course together? Because as I mentioned already, first of all, you need to know these things so that you can position yourself as a complete technical expert. And then whatever you're doing manually here, let's say you're creating a BIP report. What is a BIP report you're creating? I want to get invoices from Fusion application. For that, I'm creating a report. You can run the report from the Fusion UI directly. You go to Fusion SaaS UI, you can run the report, you will see the report output. It may be XML or PDF or whatever you want. But what you want to do now, you want to develop one integration. Whenever that integration you can schedule so that it's going to run every 1 hour or once in a day. And that will run this report, which is available in the Fusion applications with the help of a report service. Download the data into integration and then manipulate the data. Manipulate means whatever I'm getting 1,000 records, but I don't want all the 1,000 records. I want to have some conditions again. Where the invoice amount is less than 10,000, I want to pick up only those records. And then I want to insert the data into my local database, on-premise database. How will you do that one? That you cannot do with the Fusion applications directly. See, these things were possible earlier. In the Oracle Apps space, you can do everything in PLSQL. You are developing a PLSQL API, which you can call the existing PLSQL API, and it can also write to another table. But now you cannot do that in Fusion applications. In the Fusion applications, what it is doing is the Fusion apps is actually exposing some web services here or reports. Only with the help of reports or web services, you can communicate with the Fusion applications programmatically. Okay, so what we're trying to do now, with the help of web service, we are going to develop an integration which will call this a BIP report which is running in the Fusion applications, get the data, and then manipulate that and do like whatever you want according to requirement. That is one example I'm talking about. That's what I mentioned in the part 3. That's what we are doing. And then whatever the file-based data import you're learning here, it is having multiple steps. If you want to load the large amount of data in Fusion applications, first you are going to download a template from Oracle site, then prepare the data, then create, generate the CSV and zip files, upload them to UCM. Then you are going to schedule some process which will take that file and import the data into Fusion applications. All that you will be doing, you will wait for the process like the job completion, and then you will go and see whether it's completed or not. You can download the log files. That all you are doing manually. What we are doing now, part 1, you are becoming expert of integration in cloud technology. Part 2, you are becoming expert of these Fusion technologies. Again, part 2, you are not really going too much of depth like what we are doing in the part 1, because the integration is our main focus, but you are getting all that foundation, everything into it. We are doing the practice, everything on the Fusion application. Now you put together and developing the live integrations with the Fusion applications. So if you take this part, what we're talking about, whatever you did manually, we're going to automate that with the help of integrations. In the report case, you are running that manually. Now you are going to run with the integration and you can manipulate the data. I show one use case. I'll ask you to try 2-3 different use cases. And then when you go back and do that practice, you come back with the questions. We can discuss at the next session. So that's how you are going to learn this technology. It's very important that you are allocating enough time for the practices. If you don't practice, then it is very difficult to get that confidence. You may understand what we're talking, but you have to put a lot of practice, a lot of time for the practices. If I'm taking 2-hour session, you may have to spend 4 hours practices before the next session. Sometimes it's required like that, okay? So that's very important. And then on those lines, we are also communicating the Fusion applications with the help of SOAP services. Like in this case, what we are doing, I'm just creating suppliers. How do I create suppliers? There is again a web service available. Either web service, or there's one more option called Oracle ERP Cloud Adapter. So we are going to use both the cases and see what is the difference. And where the source data available, the source data may be available in FTP, it may be coming from the local file server, or it may be coming from your on-premises database. We will take all these use cases and read the source data, and then create the suppliers on the Fusion application with the help of Fusion SOAP service and also ERP Cloud Adapter. So all those different use cases we are going to put together and learn this technology and apply that in the live integrations, so to become expert in these different areas. In the part 4, you are going to learn about some related technologies like what is VBCS, what is PCS, what is Oracle SOA, what is Oracle ADF. Sometimes like the people ask what is Oracle Apex, I'll try to show that one. But here you can't expect me to go and show like what we are doing in the part 1, part 2, part 3. This is more like to get an understanding of these technologies, what are the capabilities of like these technologies and how they are related to the integration and where they can be used in your real work. You will be doing 1 or 2 examples, but here the expectation is not like I will give you assignments, you are practicing and coming back and assign. No, we will not spend that much time. Our scope will not allow. If I have to do that one again, that will be separate training. So we are trying to include them. In fact, not required. Here also we can stop. This is sufficient for integration in cloud, but we're trying to just understand some additional technologies. Oracle SOA is very important to learn along with integrations, because Oracle SOA is actually getting replaced by integration in cloud. You can say that. I'm not saying Oracle SOA will be completely replaced, but there is an alternate solution now. Earlier Oracle SOA, now integration in cloud is an alternate solution for that. But what happens when you're working in your team may be using Oracle SOA as a solution, right? Why? Because somebody coming from Oracle SOA background is a technical person, Java and Oracle SOA background, and they are giving the solution Oracle SOA. But you can you can always participate in the discussions and the decision making. If you know Oracle SOA and Oracle Integration Cloud, at least the capabilities and the pros and cons of Oracle SOA, you know the comparison of like Integration Cloud with Oracle SOA. So that and all we are going to do. So you will actually get complete understanding of Oracle SOA architecture, what are the components available, how you develop the integration in the Oracle SOA, what is the overhead there compared to Integration Cloud, so that with that knowledge you will go back and you'll be able to participate in the discussions and decision making confidently. Okay, you can tell that no, we're also having subscription for Oracle Integration Cloud. Probably in this case, developing integration with OIC would be much lighter and faster instead of using Oracle SOA. That you'll be able to tell only when you're exporting the Integration Cloud and also you know the SOA side, how it works. So that and all you are going to get that expertise. Okay, that is the scope. So basically the scope, what we are saying is you are learning ICS, you are learning Fusion Technical, and then you are learning, you are doing the live integrations with the Fusion applications. And then you are learning the related technologies like VBCS, ADF, SOA, and Process Cloud Service. That is the scope of this training. As I said, again, a lot of focus for the practices. I'm going to give many documents which will be useful to you guys. So this is the folder I'm going to share. This contains different files here, XML files and XSD files like that, WSDL files, which you'll be needing for your practices. It also has some recording activities which can be also used as part of your practices, but usually this may not be required as you are going to get the recording access for the sessions also. So you can go back and play back your session and you can work on the practices. So all this software point of view, you may have to install your SOAP UI and Oracle database also. Not mandatory, but if you can do that, you will be able to work with the database practices. We're having like multiple, at least 2-3 scenarios where we're reading the data and updating the data from Oracle XE database in the Fusion live integrations, and also when you're learning the ICS. So that for that you may need XE database you have to install. But in case some people are having office laptops, if they can't install Oracle database, still we can manage. That's not a problem. Okay. So this is the resources we are going to get. These are very, very helpful for your practices. And we'll be having lots of running notes here. That's how it will be done. Okay. Yeah, that is, I hope you got some idea about the scope of what you're learning in this. And the next thing what I want to show today, I would like to show a couple of integrations which are already built, and maybe I'll be creating one integration as well. But before that, I would like to take some questions because I talked so much, and so I want to give time for you guys. Yeah. I stop for a moment. You can unmute and ask your questions if you have anything.
Bhaskar, is it IOC and OIC are one and the same?
Yeah. Let me share my screen. So OIC is Oracle Integration Cloud. So ICS is actually the old term. We don't use ICS term now. We use actually only OIC. But what I'm saying OIC because OIC contains, you can say, integrations and Visual Builder, Cloud Service, and PCS. Put together that becomes OIC. Okay. In the earlier versions, Oracle was providing only ICS, and now it is part of OIC umbrella. Okay. So when you come to the server also here, see, this is the integration cloud. You are having integrations, you're also having the Visual Builder, you're also having the Process Cloud Service. So all these three together called generally Oracle Integration Cloud. Right. Does it answer the question?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Right. So now let me show a couple of integrations, what we can do. Let me see if my agent is running. Yes. So I go to my integration, one integration called, 1 second. Just a second, I'll share it back. Hold on, please. So I come here, I'll share my screen again. So in this integration, let me search for this. See, these are the integrations which are developed already. I would like to open one integration, which is where we are communicating with the Fusion applications with the help of supplier web service. And I'm also having a local database here, which is having some supplier records in this. So if I open this schema, this is my local database. So I see select star from suppliers. Okay, it is having some suppliers. Assume that you are running EBS or some on-premise application, and you are getting some records created in the database table, and it's also having some status. The status means whether these records are ready or not ready. NR means like not ready. R means they are ready for processing. S means already successfully processed. E means it is processed, but there is some error. Something like that. We are maintaining some status column, and here it is supplier name, number. Are just managing like 4 or 5 fields, which is going to identify the supplier details here. So what we are trying to do with this integration, the one I am opening here.
Bhaskar,
Yeah.
so currently, like I don't have a personal laptop. I have office laptop.
Yeah.
I have access to my company, whatever project that I am working database.
Mm-hmm.
Can I map? Like
Yes.
you will be providing some training instance, right?
Yes, you'll be able to map to that one. Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So coming back to this, what we're trying to do, this is an integration. Don't worry, like to understand all this. If you're already working with integration, you'll be able to understand what is this. But what we're trying to do here, this is an integration. You are going to develop these integrations. Okay. Today I'm trying to show what is already there here. Ultimately, you are going to create. This is one of the integrations. Like this, you are going to create much more complex integrations also. This is an orchestration based integration. What we're trying to do, we're trying to read the data from database, which is on-premise database. We're also having an agent running here. So with the help of agent, you'll be able to communicate with the local database, on-premise database, read the supplier data based on some conditions, and then we're using some for loop. So this is, if you open here, you understand what is the table we are using, like that. We will be reading the data, and then it is going to generate some SQL, all that like that. So, and you are using some for loop. How to use for loop? Again, there are different actions available, activities. We are going to drop those activities and components, and you are going to build your orchestration. There is no coding involved when you're developing the integrations in the integration platform, but it doesn't mean you are not writing programs. It is, you are indirectly developing the programs here. When I say programs, you are putting some logical business logic in developing the integrations. See here, I'm using a loop because when I'm reading the data from the database, I'm getting multiple records. Now the Fusion application is providing one web service called create supplier, which will take only, for example, 1 record. Now I cannot send all my 10 records to this web service input. I have to send 1 record by record. Now how do I do that one? I will use a for loop to iterate over that collection and take current 1 record by record. And here I am calling the Fusion application, and I will be sending that input here in the mapping. And then once everything is completed, I'm going to update the status in my local database, on-premise database, whether it is completed or successful or failed, etc. So this whole thing is happening in the for loop here. This is called for loop, like that. So these and all you are going to learn, and hands-on you have to practice. One thing, let me also check whether my Fusion integration, the Fusion connection is up to date with the password. So if I come here, I'll understand BK Fusion Supplier Service is what I'm using. So what I will do, BK Fusion Supplier Service, I'll go and update my connection there once. This is one. Okay. And just give me one moment. I'll take the password. It is available in my system. So I'll update my password of this one, ZOMC, yeah, and test it. So this is how you create the connections for web services with the help of WSDL, all that. You'll also get the clarity what is WSDL, what is SOAP-based web service, what is REST-based web service. In fact, those are like some of the initial sessions we are going to talk about. Okay, so this is done. So it is telling these are the integrations which are actually consuming this connection. You have to go and reactivate. So I did that. Now what I do, I go back to my integration. I will deactivate this once. And then just activate once again, so that sometimes otherwise it will not reflect the changes what I done in the connection. And then what I do, what we are trying to do, I'm going to read the data from on-premise database, having a supplier table, and I'm going to read only where status equal to R. R means they are ready for the processing. And after completion, I'm going to update the status back with update. So after that, what I do, read the data and then create suppliers on Fusion apps and update the supplier table which is again on-premise, the same table wherever I'm reading from, with the status, with appropriate status. With the status like completed, etc. Like let's say successful means yes. That's what I'm trying to do. I activated that, so you can just refresh. And let me go here and change some of these rows into R, because nothing is R now, it won't be able to read anything. So what I can do is, let me directly go to table here, I can open and go to data. I can directly change here is SQL developer or JDeveloper I'm using. I will, for example, make this one as, what is this one? OIC test, or we will say BK demo, for example, this one. R and R. So 3 records I'm making. BK demo, test 5223, 5234, and then something else. So these are the 3 records. Now, before I go and do this integration, let me log into my Fusion applications. This is my Fusion application on the cloud. You will get familiar with this one if you're not used anything. If you're already working the Fusion applications, you are familiar with this UI already. I log into this one. I'll first confirm that these suppliers are not available already. That, I mean, just to understand, after our integration is submitted, you will see those suppliers will be created here if everything is intact. I mean, there are a lot of dependencies here, the environment. Your agent has to be running and your Fusion connection should be like proper. So I go to Fusion applications here. So go to procurement and I open the suppliers. Okay, so there are some suppliers you can see here. I'll go and search for the supplier with this BK demo. Okay, BK demo April 20, something like that. That is the starting, right? It's starting with that. So BK demo April 20, if I search, I don't think you have anything with that right now. But if I search only BK demo, probably I would have created something. Let's see. Yeah, only BK demo, there are some entries are there. But the BK demo April 20, whatever I'm mentioning here is not available. These 3 records, let's see if it is going to create it. So I updated this one. Okay. And then what I do, I go back to integration. Let me submit this. This also can be scheduled. We are not scheduling right now. You can say you run it every 1 hour, for example. So every 1 hour it will go and check if the records are there, which are status with R, and then it is going to read and process. That's the idea. So let's see if this is going to. You can also go and monitor. Usually what happens is if you go here and go to monitoring, in the tracking, you'll be able to understand what is happening with your integration. It is still in progress. It means it's still running. There is some error. Yeah, this happens sometimes. Maybe something is not working expected. So the create supplier is failing because authentication. So the password didn't get changed. Let me just check again. What is the password it's taking? Fusion suppliers, BKJ Fusion supplier service. Okay. BKJ Fusion supplier service. Integrations, connections. BKJ. No, this is BK. Okay, that's the problem. So there is one more supplier service called BKJ. So we have to modify there. BKJ Fusion supplier service. So this is the one. Looks like it's also using ZYMC. First we have to unlock this. It is locked. And BKJ Fusion supplier service. So I will take the password again. Let me update this. There are lots of connections created here, so it's confusion sometimes. So the password for this one. Sorry, I have to stop sharing in between because I'm just going to one file to get these passwords. So let us test and save this. Save it. All right, so I go back, integration. Let me try to deactivate once again. Right, and then activate. So here now, refresh this. So we'll submit once and see if it is going to do everything. Okay. In fact, everything is done. When you go to suppliers here, what was that? BK demo, April 20. Right, so it should be created here. You can go and check in the monitoring. Succeeded. So let's check actually here itself once. So now I modified the 3 of those records to R, right, which were these 3, BK demo April 20, April 20. So I get again and see. So those 3 will be now successful. You can see yes, yes, yes. April 20, April 20 successful. So we'll also take this and test once. So in the Fusion application, maybe I'm not typing correct. So if we search, so if you get see all those 3 suppliers created here. So now this is how you can develop the integrations. What you have done here is we didn't create a scheduled integration, right? But what you can do now you develop this integration, and this integration can be scheduled to execute once in an hour, once in a day, and that is going to read the data from your on-premise database based on all the new records, and then process them to create in Fusion, and then it's going to update the status back completed. Basically, it's updated to yes. In this integration, what you're not done, in fact, is we're not handling the faults. So in fact, if you look at the other versions of this supplier, which I didn't want to show that because it becomes too complex to show. For example, if you open this one, right, here we are actually having much more complex logic because we're using some scopes, and then we're handling the fault. And if anything is going wrong, you are going to tell it is trying to process, but is actually failed. You are going to have the status back to E and F. So those and all you are going to learn and develop the integration is more complex, like this. Then I can also show more, but it's fine. I think you're getting some idea, right? What kind of integration we're going to develop. The other integrations are file-based data import. You're having large amount of data, and you want to read from FTP, and then you want to execute your scheduled process and wait for that completion, then download the log files. So all that you'll be creating. So let me see if I have anything I can show at least here. That is FBDI. Yeah, for example, let's open this one. See, this is a little more having more steps. What we are doing here, you're reading the data from an existing FTP server, which is having a large amount of data, and then you are going to upload that using UCM upload, and then you're using ERP Cloud Adapter import job. After that, you are actually waiting for the job completion, checking in the while loop, and then you are going to download the log files, and then you want to write them to FTP. So you can do, it all depends on your business requirement. So you are going to develop those kind of integrations, etc. Yeah, I think I can again take some questions.
Okay, Bhaskar, I have a couple of questions here. Okay, the first one is, so now you have loaded the data from the database to the cloud application, right? So is that only the way, or we can load the data in the different ways? Like example, now I have the Excel sheet, I have the data. So how to load the data into the cloud by using this integration cloud?
That is using FBDA. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, FBDA, right?
Yeah, FBDA automation you are going to do. That's what you are doing in that part 3, one of the examples.
Okay, but currently you shown just only one. There are two records for the demo which we have loaded into the cloud application, right?
Sorry.
No, just now we have loaded the 3 records into the Oracle Cloud, right?
Yeah,
So
this
that
is
is
not
by using.
this is not FBDI because the data is available in the database.
Correct, correct. So this
FBDI,
is the one way of to.
this just now I was showing one more integration, right? The one I was showing here. This is going to do the FBDI integration. Will be taking the data from FTP. Like what we'll be having is an FTP server. Let me open that.
Yeah, I got that. I got that. I was asking that there is one way you have shown the data, but there are multiple ways to load the data, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
You're doing all those multiple ways you'll be learning. Yes, yeah, exactly. So that's
And
where.
the second question.
Yeah, that's where, like, if you look at this one, when you are learning, in fact, the integration cloud itself, you are learning these different. Where would I mention that? Hold on. If you go up, see, reading JSON from FTP, reading XML from FTP, downloading zip from FTP and extracting the files, invoking REST and exposing as like these and all can become your source. Now from that source, it depends what is the target accepting. Target is accepting as XML data, or is it expecting a data which you are going to download from an FTP in a CSV file, and then that will become input for your process like that. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the second question is, so sometime back, somebody was asking the question if they are having the office laptops and how can you access the database? Like you shown the JDBC can you open the database SQL?
Yeah.
So yeah, this one. So Oracle JDeveloper 12c. So if the people are having the office laptops, how can we query the database records and all? How can we do the like our practice testing kind of thing?
You can use either cloud database. Like I cannot tell you like how to use the cloud ATP. There is one way to create that one. Otherwise, if you're having any other database, you also use that one. But by the way, this is not the whole training. Even if you can't do this one, it's okay. Believe me, there are many more things you are going to do. This is just one of the 50 practices what I have shown. Okay. You understand what I'm saying? In case if it is really becoming completely difficult to have the database access, it's okay. You will still be able to take this training and become expert. Because as you said, FTP server is there. Now FTP server I'm going to give you. You'll be able to connect to that one. You go here. I'm going to give the FTP these details. Whatever I'm using, this one. It's a paid FTP server. And on the FTP server, what you do now, for example, FBDI, what we are talking, right? You go and upload the files to your first FBDI. I mean your file server here. This is. Let's just see if I have any file here which I can show. For example, I opened this one. So I kept maybe some records here. These are my daily rates data. Like this, you can have any number of records in this, 1,000 records also. This is a CSV file. Now what we are going to do in the integration. So for this, you don't need anything. This is FTP server also running on the cloud. I will just give you the connection details for this one. You will create the connection and you will prepare the data and upload here. Then your integration will be reading. This is actually the integration for that only. I can show this one also, in fact. So it is going to read. Let me in fact show that one quickly if you want. What it does is that I need to use another integration for that. Just one moment. I mean another integration instance because this is not having that properly. But anyway, I think you are getting idea, right? What I'm saying. You don't need to only work with database. Database is just one of the various sources what we are using in the integrations. So most of the times you are going to use, in fact, the web services, and then you are going to use FTP and file. All that will come into picture. Okay.
And even if the people are having the Microsoft SQL server, maybe that can be helpful for this practice.
Yeah, for that your adapter will be different. That's all. You are going to create connection with the help of Microsoft SQL Server adapter. So here in the integrations, you are dealing with different connections, which you are going to do step by step. So here, when you are creating connections, you are going to create connections based on these adapters. You can see soap, rest like that. And the other adapters could be all these. You can create application adapters. You can create, if I go to SQL Server, you just search for SQL Server, you can see Microsoft SQL Server is also another adapter. So you can also create a connection using this adapter, and you can read the data from your SQL Server also.
Okay.
Right. So when I go to this integration, I don't think there is a need to really show that. We'll be anyway developing this and doing that. So in this case, you can see we are same thing, whatever I just showing there. It's a properly running setup. So you read the data from FTP. So when you're reading the data from FTP, what you mentioned here is actually the file name and all that stuff. You can see here the daily rates, the CSV file I'm reading from this location like that. And then it is going to download, and then you are going to use your FPDI here. This FPDI is the Oracle ERP Cloud Adapter. With that help, it is going to submit the job also on the FPDI. So like that. So you are going to do the integrations with Fusion applications with help of 4 different means basically. The 4 different means and 4 multiple sources. The different means will be, you can use integration with SOAP, Fusion application, SOAP services, REST services, and Oracle ERP Cloud Adapter. Okay. Now, where is the data coming from? Data may be coming from local file system. Again, it can be CSV, it can be JSON, it can be XML, it can be single record, it can be multiple records. Or it could be coming from a local on-premise database, right? It may be coming from FTP server. When it is FTP server, again, all these come into picture. So now you are going to do all these different various use cases during the first part, using some scenarios, and the same thing you are going to apply during the third part when you are doing the live integrations. So that is, that's how you are going to learn this step by step from why this is, part 1, part 2, part 3, why it is important is. So if I directly go and develop the Fusion integrations, you won't be able to understand. It's very difficult because a lot of things you are going to first learn as a technology and then apply them for the actual live applications in the part 3. That's what you are learning. In the part 3, you're also dealing with the actual web services which are exposed to Fusion applications. Okay. So
these adapters are, it is already predefined one. We are just going to use as per our requirements, right?
Yeah. Adapters are already available in the Integration Cloud platform. Those adapters will be platform specific. So if you're using Oracle SOA will be having adapters. Oracle might be reusing the same adapters in the Integration Cloud and also Oracle SOA, but the adapters will be specific to the platform. But the web services will be generic. If you have a web service which is exposed to the Fusion applications, that web service can be even invoked by a Java web service client also. That's possible.
Correct.
But that is not possible with the adapters. Okay, so that's where. But what you are doing actually in the training, the FPDI integration. FPDI integration can be done with the 2 ways. One is ERP integration service. There is a web service like that. Okay. ERP integration service, and also you can do with the help of Oracle ERP Cloud Adapter. Now, ERP integration service will have more steps to complete that one. You have to go and assign lots of input, everything you have to do manually. But this is a SOAP web service. This is a generic way of doing. Even though you can achieve the same thing with the help of ERP Cloud Adapter with lesser steps, first you are doing this one so that you understand the complexity of that one, and then you will go and see how it is actually reducing the amount of effort using adapter. And not only that, when you are working in the in your company, tomorrow your company may say, we don't have subscription for Oracle Integration Cloud, but we want to implement FPDI automation with the help of, for the Fusion applications. How will you do that? You cannot say, I cannot do, right? What you can do, you can achieve that with the help of the SOAP web service. Even if you are going to do in the PLSQL also possible. It's possible. So the client can be written, I already mentioned here, right? The client can be in any of these technologies. The service is exposed to the Fusion applications. Now, but then the next question is, if it is possible with PLSQL, why we are learning integration cloud? That is because it becomes easy. If I have to manage the integration of the PLSQL, it is very difficult for me when you are specifically working with the web services. You don't have all that. The technology is meant for that one. You can achieve it, but it becomes very difficult to manage, transform the data, working with like all the web services. Whereas it comes to integration cloud, you have everything specifically designed for that. You go here, create the connections, adapters are available. You can easily transform the data, right? You can easily communicate the file system, FTP, database, all these like different applications as well. That's where you are learning the integration cloud, but it doesn't mean you cannot use other technologies for the integrations. Okay, you have to be very clear on that. So there might be some situations, some small companies where they don't want to get into this ERP, the integration cloud subscription because that is very costly or whatever. They want to manage like a couple of integrations with the help of other technologies. You should be able to even work in that situation. You are going to learn that kind of foundation in this training for sure. I can guarantee on that. Tomorrow you have to work on some other technologies also. Okay. We'll also show some examples using Java actually, even though you don't know Java, but you'll be able to understand. Let's say we are developing some integration and you want to call that using Java, how to do that one. You will get some idea on that. Right. Actually, I was also planning to create one integration today, but I think I will not do that. I will probably do that one in the next session. That will be day after tomorrow. So today it's more of understanding the scope and getting in some idea about integration cloud interface and the Fusion applications, etc. The next session we'll start with first we'll start with one hello world integration so that you will understand all the steps. Okay, all the steps of creating integration. You may have lots of questions over there, but you will do end to end, create the connections, create trigger connection, invoke connection, then create the integration, use them, and then run it like from the SOAP UI, give the input and get the output and see why you are doing that one. That's the first thing you'll create. And then you will go ahead and start with these fundamentals after that. Like what is XML, XSD, WSDL, what is SOAP and REST, difference between that, REST fundamentals, creating REST APIs, all that you'll be doing. And slowly you are going to build your the integration cloud expertise, and then you will be applying that for the live integrations. So that's how we are going to do it. So just only one commitment I need from you people is you should be able to spend enough time for the practices. If you can do that one, nobody can stop you. You can learn, everything what you need for the integrations. You will be a different person after these 5 to 6 weeks of training. The way you look at on this technology, it's entirely different, the confidence level, etc. Okay, I think I'll stop here. But if you have any questions, I can still take that questions.
Bhaskar, Shiva here.
Yeah, Shiva.
Bhaskar, will be able to crack OSCS certification with this?
Yes. Yeah, OSCS certification is definitely possible to crack after this training. Only thing is you have to put additional learning after this training. This training is going to provide you most of the things what you need for the certification, but the certification is also involving something called API gateway, which is a small portion in the certification. So at least if you can learn that theoretically, what is API gateway, API platform, how to use that one, and rest all mostly will be covered. There are actually 4 or 5 different areas in the certification. One is the fundamentals like WSDL, XML, etc. Then the integration cloud. Then it's also having something about SOA, something about the PCS, and also API platform. API platform is not covered in this training, but rest all we are learning. And the integration cloud and the fundamentals, there is no doubt, everything will be in there. SOA, yes, whatever I'm covering in the part 4 can be utilized for your certification. PCS, again, whatever on the part 4 can be utilized for the certification.
Okay, so VBCS, PCS also is part of the certification.
VBCS is not there. Oracle SOA a little bit. Those are only they're asking the basics, mainly integrations, but the basics are there from the SOA and PCS, and also API platform.
Okay, so that's the only thing that we need to put an additional effort.
Yeah. People actually, yes. I mean, many people cleared the certification after the training. They come back and tell me the training really helped, like, to clear the certification. So I hope you should be able to also do that with additional preparation.
Okay, sure. Thanks for that. And one more question is about the Fusion. Do we have a Fusion in on-premise, or we have?
No, Fusion is only on the cloud.
Okay, but
There is
any
some,
is on-premise, maybe, right?
yeah, EBS is available on the cloud and also on-premise. Both are available.
I mean to say Fusion. Earlier, was it on-premise?
Which one? Fusion.
Yeah.
Fusion only the first version, the version 9, which was actually in 2014-15, it was available on the on-premises.
Okay.
After that, they are not giving on-premise version. It's available only in the cloud. There is something called Cloud at Customer. If some clients are asking like they don't want to use a public cloud, Oracle is having another implementation pattern called Cloud at Customer. It will be like your on-premises, but not like on-premises. Not exactly on-premises, I mean to say.
Okay.
Yeah, can you guys send me your email ID and mobile number on chat? You can just send it to me the personal on Zoom chat if you can. I'm not sure. I mean, I have been interacting with you guys, but if you just want me to again contact back after today's session, you can just send me email ID and the mobile number on personal chat on Zoom, or you can ping me on my number. My number is +91 9071 449 Okay, I didn't talk about the schedule, right? We are going to do this on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday for 2 hours every day, which is going to be 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. IST. This week I'll keep it little light because I'm also in some other dependencies, and it's also good to go a little slow in the initial 2-3 sessions. And the coming Saturday, I may not be taking the session. I'm planning some travel. I have to pick up my mother, actually. She's in Hyderabad. So mostly we'll be having a session on Thursday, and Saturday may not be there, but from the coming Tuesday, we'll be having the regular sessions, like from 11th, okay? But be prepared to attend the Thursday session if you want to, of course. I mean, assuming you're continuing the training. So,
is there any pause? It's a request only. It's any possible 7 to 9 also? Any possibility is there?
I can do 7 to 9 as well if everybody is okay. Let's do one thing. Let's start with 7:30 on Thursday, and then we can ask everyone if 7 is okay. Then we'll do 7 to 9. In fact, that will be good for everyone. I think you can finish the training and then you can go to your other.
Yeah. This office will start by just 10:30 to 11. That's the problem.
I should be able to do that. In fact, that also helps. In fact, people who are in US, it is a little earlier. Otherwise, it becomes a little late, 7:30 for them. So this is Suresh Galaxy. Sorry.
Yes, Bhaskar.
Yeah, I mean, I got your voice, but I just want to make sure. Yeah.
I was also planning to ask you the schedule of like morning 7 instead of 7:30. So that's good.
Okay. Anybody has like problem with 7 o'clock? I'll make 7 in that case. Anybody has problem with 7 o'clock?
This is Sampath actually. Just
I got Sampath. Yeah, your name. Okay. I can see your name.
Okay.
So yeah, Sampath. Fine. All right. I also got some messages. I'll make a note of this. And I think 7 o'clock looks fine for everyone. We'll do that. Okay. Good. And you can ping me on my WhatsApp if you have any questions. We can discuss that. This week, little bit busy, but still, whenever I'm free, I'll ping back. And just be prepared for the Thursday session. Thursday session also, I'll keep it little. 7 o'clock we'll do on Thursday then, not 7:30, 7 o'clock. And we'll try to finish by 8:30 or something like that on Thursday.
So the next session will be on Thursday, right, Bhaskar?
Yeah, I mean day after tomorrow. Thursday means day after tomorrow, because for US guys, it will be like Wednesday actual night. Yes, day after tomorrow.
So all the sessions will be alternate dates, right?
Yes. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. This is really fixed timings.
Tuesday, Thursday. Okay. Oh, this is very good actually. Yeah. That's fine.
Because you need time for practices. That is actually why I design like this. Believe me, initially for 1 week you may not have many practices, but after 1 week everybody will be having some pending backlogs. I've seen that generally, but they will again go back and work on that. So I'll be creating one Excel sheet like this when you are working, when you join the course. So what happens is I'll be creating an Excel sheet. I think I can take up this one. See here. So these are the list of all the integrations what you have to work on. And I take the names and then see who is practicing, who is not doing. So whenever N means you're not done, like Y means you're completed, like that. So many people don't get time to practice everything, but that's very important. We have to practice.
So application access, how many days you're going to give generally?
Okay, let me also put that one. So we are going to get Fusion Server, the SaaS, for 6 months. We don't have any problem. OSC integration instance will be getting for 2 months because this I'm getting using the completely production, the paid service, and FTP server you are going to get for 6 months again. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. That's all here. If you don't have any questions, I will end the session. We'll meet day after tomorrow. Thank you, guys.